Jesus, and I'm looking at this stained glass window of Jesus, and I've got cramps in my toes, and I'm like, you know what? He took his shoes off. So, there, that's much better. Oh, boy, Shelley. I didn't even know. Well, you know me, I move around.
I know. Let me get this.
Oh, and I think I see Linda Koenig in the house. We recognize you on the spotlight. Welcome. Glad you're here. Oh, let's see. Let me just move some things so I don't break anything. How perfect was that song, Shelley? Because the title of the talk is I Am There. And I'm going to tell you a little more about why I chose that title. But first I want to share a story out of my favorite Bible, the Children's Bible. And I want to thank one of the chaplains for reminding me that they said that they love, one of the favorite times is when I read from the Children's Bible. And so I found a story, of course, because I did this. And there it was like perfect. This is called Samuel Hears a Voice. And it's not going to be in these and thous and all this stuff. It's very simple language. So now that God's people were living in their own land, there were so many things that God wanted to tell them. How to be happy, how to take care of each other, how to protect themselves from their enemies. So God decided to choose someone to speak for him. Someone he could talk to, who would then go and talk to the people. Someone called a prophet. God looked and looked all over the land of Israel, and he was eager to pick the right person, and finally he found him in the village of Shiloh, in the house of Eli the priest. A little boy. I'm just happened to be looking at a little boy over there who could be our prophet, right? Samuel, God called one night. Samuel, I want to talk with you. Samuel sat up and he rubbed his sleepy eyes. He never heard God's voice before, and he thought that old Eli was calling him. So he ran to Eli's room and stumbled through, and Eli woke up and shooed him back to bed. Samuel, God called again. Samuel, listen. Samuel was confused this time, and now he's a little scared. So he crept back to Eli's room. Eli wakes up and says, I told you, boy, I didn't call you. Now go off to bed. Samuel didn't know what to think as he crawled under his covers. But then God called again. Samuel, Samuel. For the third time, he now knew what to do. He dashed back to Eli as fast as he could. Samuel sighed, Eli, if either of us is going to get any sleep tonight, we need to fix who's calling you. And I have an idea who it might be. So the next time you hear that voice, I don't want you coming running in here. Instead, I want you to say, speak, Lord, and I will listen. Samuel's eyes opened wide. You mean it's God calling me? Do as I tell you, said Eli, and we'll find out. So Samuel went back to bed. God called his name again. This time Samuel stayed there and listened to God, and his eyes were wide open with wonder. And from that moment on, until Samuel was himself an old man, God talked to Samuel, giving him messages to pass on to the people. And just like the first time, God's messages never failed to leave him wide-eyed with wonder. Oh, yeah. If we would just listen and not be afraid. I chose the talk, the I Am, and did most everybody get a handout today? If there is anybody that didn't get a handout, would you please raise your hand? If I can get some of the ushers here real quick to come down, I'm sorry. I'm going to need, do we have a handful or not? Okay. I'm just going to let you know that on the front of it is the announcements part, things that are going on with church. Raise your hand high so Kathy can find you. Thank you. So I'll talk a little bit while you keep your hand up so she can get around. Kathy, you're getting your jazzercise in. And so what I'm on the front are the announcements for the week. But on the back is the poem that was written by Unity's author, poet, laureate, James Dillett Freeman. And it is titled, I Am There. So I want to give you a little bit of history around this before we play. And it's actually James Dillett Freeman's voice reading his work. James Dillett Freeman in 1947 wrote the poem, I Am There. His wife, Catherine, was in the hospital undergoing surgery for cancer. It was a deep, personal time of need, Freeman recalled. I was in great anguish of spirit. When the doctors told me that Catherine had terminal cancer, he left the hospital and went to Silent Unity Prayer and Healing Room. And then he went on to Unity headquarters at Tracy Street. And he prayed, God, if you are there, please allow my Catherine to live. Oh God, where are you? Freeman would later recall that he heard a clear, audible, empathetic voice speak to him in that time of prayer. Do you need me? I am there. He looked around to see who was talking, but he saw no one. And while he bowed his head, he could still hear the words and felt hope and comfort. Freeman recalled that hospital scene when the doctor emerged from the surgery room, and the doctor walked up to him, shook his head, and told Freeman, I am sorry the cancer has spread, that Catherine just has months to live. A few days later, while she was still in the hospital, Freeman shared the doctor's prognosis with his wife. But she seemed to already know. Amid her weakened condition, he said the couple kept an upbeat facade to comfort each other. Freeman recalled taking her hand and laying down beside her. All at once there was a presence in the room with us, and we knew we were not alone. Several days later, he took Catherine home. She was in a lot of pain, Freeman said, but her courage carried them both. And in the evenings when the pain was nearly unbearable, Freeman would often read her the words that he had read and wrote in the chapel. Catherine lived for 10 months after the diagnosis, and although a great loss to him, Freeman said he did not lose faith. Rather, he was sustained by his wife's faithful influence. He said the experience taught him that God's love is always present. This poem that you are about to hear was written by James Dillett Freeman and was taken to the moon on the mission Apollo 15. I am there. And this is James Dillett Freeman reading this if you want to follow it along on the other side of your announcements.
Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions, I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am, and then but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, for only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers. Because I know you, because I love you, beloved, I am there.
And if you doubt that, hear the voice of that child. I am there. We love that voice. Stay in here if you can, because it's wonderful. What perfect timing that he chimed in at the end. So what is this about? How does this have to do with the story of Samuel? How does this have to do with you and your life and your circumstances and your families and your work? How does this have to do with any of this? If you really think about it, has there been moments in your life when you've heard that voice of God? And maybe we were like Samuel and said, oh, that can't be. In our adult, infinite wisdom, we would say, it cannot be. But in a child knows no different, other than they know they heard a voice, but they're not sure whose voice. That presence is always present and is always speaking to each and every one of us. But as Shelley so demonstrated, it's not until we get quiet that we hear and that we listen. What experiences are you going through? Are you called to stay in a frazzled mode, or are you called to let go? To let go and to trust, I am there. It has been said, in the heart of man, the cry. In the heart of God, supply. I'm going to repeat that again. In the heart of man, the cry. In the heart of God, supply. Meaning your needs will always be met. No matter how much we cry, our needs will be met. You know, I'm going to share with you a story, And some of you who are opera people may know about the composer Rossini. This goes back in the early 1800s. And he was the composer of the opera called The Barber of Seville. And I want to just tell you a little bit about something that I had never heard. I'm not really a big opera fan, but this story came out of Unity, A Way of Life, which is an old book. As you can tell, it's one of my favorites. I had to put plastic around it to preserve it. But in here, it's talking about Rossini wrote this opera. It's being performed, and the audience starts booing. Literally, the whole house now starts booing, as if it became contagious. And the lead in the opera was beside himself, and he's on stage starting to yell. The opera house manager comes out, and he's yelling, "Stop, stop, Rossini is beside himself. He is finished. He has destroyed himself." The audience hush, and they all get up and they rush to Rossini's house. They go bang on the door and they awake Rossini, who they thought was dead. And he said, "Why are you waking me up? What's wrong with you people?" And he said, "Oh, sir, we thought you were dead. The house booed on your opera that you worked so hard on." And Rossini's like, "Stop, stop, leave me alone. I want to go back to sleep. I want to go back to sleep." And it says that Rossini was either he could have chose at that moment to fret, or he could have chose to let go and get back to sleep. Guess which one he chose? He chose to close the door and go back to sleep. Rossini understood. He understood the I am. He might not have identified it as the I am there, but he knew that if he listened to them, his creativity would stop. His mind, when he awoke the next day, was, "I refuse to talk about that. I'll just create another opera. And with each one, I'll get better and better." Instinctively, he knew the principle that we talk about. What God has done, God can do. Why should we fret or worry? He simply was determined to let go and begin again. And we can do the same as Rossini. Can we? Do we? Do I? Not all the time. No. You know, there's a saying, what is it? Hold on. What is it? Hold on with tooth and nail. How does that saying go? Something about tooth and nail. Nobody ever heard of it? It's an old saying. Hold on with tooth and nail. You hang on with tooth and nail, guess what? Your teeth are going to fall out and your nails are going to fall off, right? I don't get why we say some of these things, you know. Save it for a rainy day when the blue bird sings. I don't know why we come up with it. But one aspect of wisdom is knowing when to hang on and when to let go. Isn't that the truth? Because some of us hang on. I used to love, I still love it, the DVD that we show, part of Prosperity Plus class, is Mary Morrissey using this. We cling on to this life that we've known for fear of if we let it go, what will happen. And when we let go, all things of possibility can happen. But how many years do we cling, oh, that's coming to me, cling to the old rugged cross? And what did I say a couple weeks ago that Dolly Parton said? Give it up, because somebody else needs the wood. You know, someone is sitting in ICU at a bedside of a loved one. And that someone saw 3 angels around the bed. Very clearly, they saw 3 angels around this bedside of their loved one. And instead of fear, instead of running out of the room like Samuel, no, there was a calmness and then a sharing of what they clearly saw in that room with immediate family. And it brought peace to the entire staff and to the family. Now, to me, that is God, Spirit, whatever you want to call your higher power, that is Spirit saying, I am there. Whether those angels are to take this loved one and move them back into this life as a whole being, or whether those angels are there to guide them into the next realm. We are never alone. That loved one is never alone. The I am there does not mean that it's always going to be that the miracle that we want happens. But the miracle is always happening. I can tell you many, many times that I go to bedsides of people's loved ones, or I go to their homes. And sometimes they recover, and sometimes they don't. But I can tell you, I witness miracles as families gather around the bedside. And members of families that haven't spoken or have been kind of like this, there is some kind of thing that draws them together during this time. And you watch miracles of healing, maybe not of the person in the bed, but the healing is happening in a bigger picture. I have witnessed at funerals, watching families come together who have not spoken in years. I have witnessed miracles, and I have witnessed doctors saying, there's no hope, and then hope happens, and this person comes through. You want to find somebody very powerful, look up Anita Moorjani, and that is M-O-O-R, I think it's J-A-N-I. Her first name is Anita. She had a near-death experience, was literally pronounced dead. Her father met her on the other side. He's deceased. Her father met her on the other side and said, no, it's not time for you. You've got to go back. And she had a point where she had to decide, because this side where her father was so peaceful. She didn't want to go back. Even though all her family, her husband was there, and she saw the anguish at the bedside, she saw complete nirvana here, peace. And her father kept saying, you need to go back. And she chose. It's an amazing story, and she's got a big story following that. Very, very powerful woman and powerful speaker that I was gifted to see when I went to, where was I? In, Arizona. Yeah, with Greg Braden and that whole group. I am there. I know for me, some of my darkest, and I've had several what I would call tragedies in my life. And I can tell you that somehow I heard, whether I heard a voice or I literally at one point, in one of the worst things that had happened in my life, I'm sitting in my living room and I've pulled all my curtains and shades down. I am just done with God. I'm done with everything. I can't even see myself moving forward. And literally, there was an entity that sat across from me in my living room. Now, I can tell you this story because you're not all going to look at me like I have 10 heads as I share this. You got to be careful who you share this story with. I've not shared it with a lot of people because they would say, "Oh, Kathy, what were you drinking? What, you were just in shock. That's why you saw that." See, and as Samuel, I can relate because I wished I could have had somebody to run to and tell me that was not, that it was made up in my mind. But I'm telling you, this entity that came to me told me to forgive myself. And I honestly didn't want to believe it because I didn't feel like I could ever be forgiven, ever. And this entity was just so calm and peaceful and just kept saying that. So I know what I'm saying and sharing with you of other people's stories and Samuel's. I can relate, and it's not malarkey. You don't know how the voice of God is going to appear to you when you are in your struggle, when you are in your fear, when you are sitting at a doctor's waiting room and just not like, I don't know what he's going to say or she's going to say. When you are struggling with family dynamics and tragic things that are going on. I am there is there. The great I am is there. But you've got to get quiet to hear it. You've got to quit the mind chatter. You've got to quit the fear thoughts. And that's not easy, is it? To shut those things off. You've got to shut them off. Because you were meant to move forward in this life. You were meant to be all those words that Shelley sang after meditation. You are all of that. Don't buy in to the monkey mind. Don't buy in to the fear thoughts. You were wonderfully made. Wonderfully made. And listen, did you get, that's like a hallelujah out in the drive-in. Remember when we had the drive-in church and we'd ask for the hallelujah? There it is, right there. Oh, 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 yes, you're just so cute. Oh, gosh. Oh, speaking of that, I want to close with the personal affirmation that was written for you and for me to remember this week. I want to say this 3 times, and each time that we say it, I want you to say it a little more powerfully, because I want you to own this for this week. Ready? The love of God surrounds, enfolds, sustains, and comforts me. The love of God surrounds, enfolds, sustains, and comforts me. The love of God surrounds, enfolds, sustains, and comforts me. I am there, my beloved. I am there. Namaste. Christ presence. Oh my God, it's so good to be back in here. The Christ presence in me truly sees and honors the Christ presence in each and every one of you. Namaste.